Lena Farrow hadn't meant to fall asleep. She'd only sat down for a moment, her back against the smooth obsidian wall of the nursery chamber, watching Riku and Tivi tumble over each other in their endless play. The two Cravathi cubs had been chasing a luminescent orb across the floor, their chittering laughter echoing through the crystalline dome that overlooked the purple nebula beyond. It had been 3 cycles since the diplomatic incident. 3 cycles since humanity had been granted provisional access to the Cravathi homeworld. 3 cycles since Lena, a xenobiologist from Earth, had become the first human to ever set foot in the sacred nursery, a privilege no outsider species had been granted in 12,000 years. The Cravathi were apex predators, their civilization built on strength, honor, and an almost religious devotion to their young. Standing nearly 8 feet tall with midnight black carapaces and 6 limbs ending in razor-sharp talons, they were a species the Galactic Council both feared and respected. Their elite guard, the Veshkara, were legendary warriors who had never lost a single cub under their protection. But exhaustion cared nothing for history or protocol. Lena's eyes had grown heavy watching the cubs play, the soft humming of their contentment, the warmth of the nursery's controlled environment, the gentle swaying of bioluminescent vines overhead. It had all conspired against her best intentions. Within minutes, she had drifted into sleep, her head tilted to one side, her breathing slow and steady. She didn't notice when Riku approached first, his silver-striped carapace catching the light as he sniffed curiously at her leg. She didn't stir when Tivi followed, her smaller frame pressing against Lena's side. And she certainly didn't feel it when both cubs, instinctively seeking warmth and comfort, as all young creatures do, curled up against her. Riku's head, resting on her lap, Tivi nestled into the crook of her arm. The first guard to discover them was Commander Shektar, leader of the Veshkara elite. He'd been making his routine inspection, his 4 amber eyes scanning every corner of the nursery with practiced vigilance. When he turned the corner and saw the scene before him, he froze completely. The human, asleep, with the cubs. His first instinct was alarm, an outsider, unconscious, in physical contact with the sacred young. His second instinct was to raise the alert, but his third instinct, the one that actually moved him to action, was something he hadn't felt in decades of service: wonder. Shektar's mandibles trembled as he activated his communication crystal. All Veshkara, to Nursery Chamber 7. Immediately. Silent approach protocol. Within moments, 12 elite guards materialized from the shadows, each one a veteran warrior who had dedicated their lives to protecting Cravathi young. They surrounded the sleeping trio in a perfect defensive formation, weapons ready, eyes alert. And then they saw what their commander saw. Riku and Tivi were sleeping. Truly sleeping, not the light, alert doze that cubs usually maintained, but the deep, peaceful sleep that came only when a young one felt absolutely, completely safe. Their breathing was synchronized with the humans. Their chittering had ceased entirely, replaced by soft, contented purrs that resonated through their small bodies. But it was more than that. It was the way Riku's tiny talons had curled gently, not clutching, not gripping, but simply resting on Lena's hand. It was the way Tivi's carapace had softened, the defensive plates that young cubs kept rigid relaxing completely against the human's warmth. It was the absolute trust displayed in every line of their small forms. The Cravathi had a saying, "The young see what warriors cannot." Cubs possessed an instinct, an ancient knowing, that allowed them to sense danger, deception, and predatory intent with infallible accuracy. They never let their guard down around threats. Never. Yet here were Riku and Tivi, orphaned cubs from the recent border conflict, who had barely slept since their parents' deaths, now resting as peacefully as if they'd been born to this strange, soft creature. Guard Captain Vriss, a scarred veteran of 40 campaigns, was the first to break. Her mandibles quivered, and a crystalline tear, the rarest expression of Cravathi emotion, formed at the corner of her primary eye. "By the ancestors," she whispered, her voice cracking. She's singing to them." The others listened. It was true. In her sleep, Lena was humming a low, unconscious melody that seemed to wrap around the cubs like a blanket. Some ancient human lullaby, perhaps, carried in her DNA from 10,000 generations of mothers, soothing their young. Another guard dropped to one knee, overcome. Then another. Soon, the entire elite detail of the Veshkara, 12 of the deadliest warriors in known space, were kneeling in a circle around the sleeping human and cubs, tears streaming down their carapaces. They wept for Riku and Tivi, who had finally found peace. They wept for the parents who had died protecting the border worlds. They wept for the unexpected beauty of seeing their most precious young ones cradled by a species they barely understood. And perhaps most of all, they wept because in this moment, they understood something profound about humanity. Humans were predators, that much was obvious from their forward-facing eyes, their pursuit-built bodies, their aggressive expansion through space. But they were also protectors. They carried within them the same fierce devotion to the young that the Kravathi held sacred. They could be soft and hard simultaneously, gentle and deadly in the same breath. When Lena finally stirred awake, her eyes fluttering open in confusion, the first thing she saw was a circle of massive armored warriors surrounding her. Every single one had tears streaming down their faces. Every single one had weapons drawn, not pointed at her, but aimed outward, protecting her. Shektar stepped forward and placed one massive talon over his chest, in the Kravathi gesture of deepest respect. "Forgive us, Lena Pharaoh of Earth," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "We did not wish to wake you, but we needed you to know." He gestured to his warriors, to the sleeping cubs still nestled against her. "That you have earned something tonight that no outsider has ever earned. You have earned the trust of our young, and therefore, you have earned the devotion of every Veshkara warrior who draws breath." Lena looked down at Riku and Tivi, still sleeping peacefully against her, and then back up at the circle of crying warriors. I just fell asleep," she whispered. "Yes," Commander Shektar replied, another tear trailing down his carapace. "And in doing so, you showed us what your species truly is. You are not just warriors or explorers or scientists." He knelt before her, and his entire guard detail followed suit. "You are caretakers, protectors of the young, bearers of peace in your very bones." He placed his weapon at her feet, a gesture of absolute trust among his people. "From this moment forward, Lena Pharaoh, you are Veshkara, you are guardian, you are kin." As the other warriors followed suit, laying down their weapons in a circle around her, Lena felt Riku stir in her lap and heard Tivi's sleepy chirp against her side. And in that moment, she understood that humanity had just earned something more valuable than any treaty or trade agreement. They had earned a family among the stars.